This episode of the Accounting Insiders podcast is brought to you by Insightful Accountants Be Insightful membership program. Get 9 expert-led training tracks, over 30 CPE hours a year, hands-on workshops, and year-round premium content to grow your skills and your practice. Learn more at blog.insightfulaccountant.com. Just click the premium member content button.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Accounting Insiders podcast. My name is Gary Dehart and I am the I'm the publisher of Insightful Accountant and the host of the Accounting Insiders podcast. And my guest today is Jacqueline Edwards. Jacqueline is hailing out of New York. Are you in Harlem? Is that right?
Yeah, I'm in Central Harlem.
Okay, that's what I thought. So today is September the 16th, 2025. I always like to put the date on there, so that if we say something, a month from now might not be relevant, or it might be different. Like you said in the green room, numbers change, right?
That's
Accounting
right.
changes frequently. So
Every day's a different number.
exactly, every day
Oh,
is a different number. I like that. So a little bit about Jacqueline. She's the founder of Business Pipeline Incorporated, a New York-based solopreneur practice offering bookkeeping, business advisory, and mindset first financial transformation for entrepreneurs and high earners. And we're going to talk about the mindset first financial transformation as well as her business as we get into this discussion. But she is also an advanced certified QuickBooks Pro advisor, a licensed real estate broker, and creator of the Wealth Identity Blueprint, which is a diagnostic tool designed to expose hidden wealth blockers, and align financial strategy with identity. She was a 2023, 2024, and 2025 Top 100 Pro Advisor by Insightful Accountant, and recently, this year, 2025, was the 2025. I get way ahead of myself. QBO Appologist, not apologist, but the QBO Appologist, which was awarded at Scaling New Heights and back in June. So she's been in business for about 3 decades, according to her, and has a lot of experience that she's going to share with us today. So Jacqueline, thank you so much for being here, for taking some time out. People always like to hear what's going on with their peers, and it sounds like you do have a lot going on. So I appreciate you joining me.
thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So I gave a little bit of the bio, but I'm going to let you put your bio in your own words to kind of kick off the conversation. So we already said who you are, but how did you get into doing what you do? How did you get into accounting? Was it like, I've always loved numbers, I got to be an accountant, or how did you end up doing what you do?
I actually, account numbers are a gift for me. I used to sit down in class and, teacher would be talking about numbers and stuff. And I'd look around the room because I'd be like, I wanted to know if anyone else heard what I heard, because
Yeah.
I would hear the answer. And my mom always told me you don't have to say everything that you're thinking. So I wouldn't. And I found out later on in life that numbers was a gift to me. When I was a buyer for Abraham and Strauss, short acronym ANS, a department store in New York City, and I turned the sterling silver department into more money than they expected or wanted it to be.
Awesome. Well, good for you. Yeah, it's funny. My mother kind of fell into. She said out of all the jobs that she's ever done, she was basically a bookkeeper at a bank, and then for this construction company. And that's just always like, that's her favorite job. She's like, if I could do that, the rest of my days, that's what I would do. Just
Yeah,
like she likes numbers, and it's the same thing. It comes natural
yeah,
for her. So it's not work, right? When it comes naturally.
right. I don't consider myself a nerd, but I guess I am. But I consider myself a fashionista.
Oh,
So,
perfect. So, all right. So we're going to talk about a few things. So the identity crisis, this is kind of your words, identity crisis inside of accounting, and why pricing, positioning, and profitability suffer if practitioners don't kind of rewire or or reframe their relationship with money or their internal relationship with money. What do you mean by that?
What I mean is, when we go to all of these conferences, everyone's talking about pricing and, the pricing structure and why we should charge what we charge. But that's the surface. They're not addressing the paradigm that we have with money, because our paradigm, our habits, it's habitual, and it comes from an early age.
Mm.
And, people are really good at what they do, but they're like, I'm not making any money. They're not asking their value. And it's because of their paradigm why that's happening, and which is an emotional state
Okay.
that needs to translate into, the pricing and the structure of everything that they're doing. So there's a disconnect. So they have um, the concept of things, but they're not facing the emotional relationship that they have with money to bring it forth and really create the clarity and the structure necessary for it to all flow together, just like cash flow and what they do for a living.
And is that relationship one of, do you see it as one of, I'm just going to hold on tight and not let it go, not reinvest in the business, or do you think that it's more undervaluing themselves? What are your thoughts around that?
It's a undervalue of themselves. It's a level of confidence that they have in themselves. It's an emotional state, really, you
Hmm.
know. And sometimes it's sort of like when you see some people in the street and they're dressed to the nines, and it's like, wow, they look amazing. But in their home, it's just like a fashion junkyard. There's
Mm.
no organization, but they looked all put together. But when you go in their home, it's a mess. And it's
Right.
the same thing with a lot of business owners, not even just our profession, but business owners where they know what they know and they can do what they do, but when it comes to having the flow, the organization, and the comfort that they have with their core instrument, there's a disconnect. That fluidity, that comfort, it's not there. And
Hmm.
so it translates into, you know, your finances, and you not being able to collect or charge or earn what it is that you really are valued at, because you are technically on an emotional state, and it's coming through that way. So when you correct it with that confidence and have that level of comfort, then everything else will surface to the top, if
And
that makes
so,
sense.
oh, it does. Absolutely. Yeah. So do you think that's um, is that a learned behavior? Because you said it's
Yes.
typically something we've had for a while.
Yes.
But is it learned by somebody taught it to me this way, or is it learned by observation? What's your experience?
Everyone's different. Some people, it's a learned behavior. Some people, it's one that they observe over and over again. So I had two sisters that are, I should say, amazing interior decorators. Um, but they couldn't earn what they felt they were worth.
Mm.
And one of the reasons when they went through the wealth identity blueprint was because one of the key phrases that they heard in the back of their mind was their mother would say, I don't need your little bit of money. So
Mm.
everything they earned was a little bit,
Mm. Okay.
even though they were phenomenal at what they were doing, but that phrase kept on sticking with them. We only have a little bit of money. And it came from, something that the parents would consistently say. They were raised by a single mom. So the mom was, always, it was a little bit. We only have a little bit of money to do this. We only have a little bit of money to do that. Or, we can't waste a little bit of money we have. They kept on saying, she would say, And so I
Yeah.
said, and that's your paradigm why you are earning a little bit of money.
Hmm. Okay. So it learned from a long time ago.
Yeah, and it's
And
just and it's unconscious. It's in our subconscious. So we're not really seeing where that paradigm is just stuck in a groove.
yeah. So since you mentioned the wealth identity blueprint, let's talk about that first, and then we're going to talk a little bit later just about like your tech stack and things that you
Sure.
use in your practice. So what is that? Is that your I know it's trademarked. Is that something that you developed?
Yeah, it's something
Okay.
I've developed over the years because when I was little, I was very quiet. I didn't talk. I'm an introvert still. I I think they call it ambiverts, where you're mostly an introvert and then socially you put it on and you're out and then you get
Oh, okay.
exhausted. So I observe people a lot. Like this weekend, all I did was people watch in Central Park. Um,
Okay.
because you can tell a lot from a lot of markers that people have, whether the way that they walk, the way that they dress, the way that they talk, how they say something, specifically the way that they're using certain words. So it's just something that I've picked up on. When I was in Abraham and Strauss, I used to always go and stand on the floor, because jewelry is always on the first floor, right?
Okay.
And when you come in, you'd have to walk through the jewelry to be able to get to the rest of the department store and go to the escalator or wherever it is that you were going. And I used to always go on the floor and just stand there and watch for hours, just looking at people, what they were doing, why they were doing it. And my GMM used to yell at me. She's like, "Why are you on the floor? What are you doing just staring at people? What's your
Yeah.
deal?" But my staring at people and seeing how they interacted with the cases, and the floor and the merchandise that was in those cases, it all led to either capturing their attention, and then of course the parameters of whether or not the salesperson was available, and if that salesperson loved the piece of jewelry or loved the island that they were at. It
Hmm.
all played together for good. And so it's really something that I learned from observation and being able to pull things together to profile people and their money.
Hmm. And so what all does it entail?
It entails a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. How much
This
time do we have, right?
Yeah, I've siphoned it down to 90 minutes
Yep.
interview and 10 questions, and based on how they answer those questions, I end up having a conversation with you. Keep in mind that I had insomnia as a child, and my mom was a psychologist, and I got to go to work and watch her all day long.
Oh, okay.
So all of my talents, I would say, are earned by just observation. And I just got really good at asking the right questions to be able to get down to that vulnerable state. Because even though we're in adult bodies, we all are teenagers or preteens of some sort in our in our best year. So
Hmm.
you can see a 50-year-old, but truth be told, they may be 50 chronologically, but their mindset and their habits are a 15-year-old teenager all day long.
Right.
And
Yep.
that reveals itself when we get to be senior citizens again. That 15-year-old will come shining through more than anything else.
Hmm. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So the wealth identity blueprint, is this something that you take into your customers who you're already working with, or is it something that you use as a conversation starter, or how do you leverage that?
Well, everyone comes to me for a specific reason, as they do everyone else. They come to you and they're like, "Oh, I just need to know how to turn my estimates into an invoice a little bit at a time." And so you start off with what it is that they want.
Hmm.
And as you start to work with them, which is why I love cleanup work so much, not only are the numbers very telling, but when I ask a question, you never get a straight answer. You always get a story.
Yeah.
It's like, well, okay, well, and they start their story. And from every story that they tell, it reveals, their true persona, if you will,
Mm.
and their relationship with money.
Okay.
And so I ease into the web with them as I ask them, what are your life goals? What are your business goals? You'd be surprised how many times they don't even align. You know,
Right.
I met somebody who took on their parents' business, but they don't want to be in the business, and it's reflective in the numbers.
Mm.
So after 2 years of working with this person doing bookkeeping, I had a strong conversation with them one day and said, "Hey, listen, it's like, what do you want to do? Because it seems like you're getting burnt out." And the floodgates opened.
Right.
And, at the end of that conversation, I said, it seems like you need to have a difficult conversation with your elderly parents to let them know you want to do something else. And
Right.
you want to know what that something else was? That they were in a cleaning business and they like photography
Oh,
and they're
big
good at
difference.
it.
Right.
Big
Yeah. Big difference.
difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when they pivoted, there was no holding them back in their in their earnings. They were like, "Oh my God, this is just it's so easy." I said, "It's
Mm.
fluid because that's who you are."
Right. Right. That's great. So really conversational is kind of where it starts.
Yeah, it does. But you can't, it's a level of awareness and you can't jolt them into it. They have to be ready for it. And in this person's case, they were extremely tired, wanted to go on vacation. Things just weren't working out. But meanwhile, they were doing everything right.
Right.
And sometimes the universe is telling us, hey, stop hitting your head against the wall, but we just keep on going because that tunnel vision or that narrow view. And in their case, they were just looking to hold on to their parents dream and legacy, which wasn't their dream.
Right. Yeah. It had a conversation this past week with somebody, and he was, fairly well off, and basically he said about 4 years ago he realized, you know what, I I finally realized I can't take it with me,
Hmm.
and I'm holding on to money or whatever it is, and not enjoying my life with my kids, and
Yeah,
so I don't care if they have anything when I leave. That's up to them. So
right.
I'm gonna take what I have now and invest it well and enjoy
And
my
enjoy
time
it.
with my family. Right.
That's right. And what he really has to do, and I tell a lot of parents this as well, I'm like, you need to teach your children about money.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to work yourself to the bone to give them money, right?
Hmm.
And that's what my parents did for me, especially my father. He taught me about money. And so I was able to, make it as a young child, and I just kept on moving with it. Of course, you had your bad years. Everyone does. It's ebbs and
Right.
flows. But when you have a skill, basically to learn how to fish or produce something, you don't have any fear of losing it because you know you can produce it each and every time. And life is ever changing, just like numbers. So you
Yep.
have to pay attention to what's going on in the marketplace to be able to pivot and make that change. And there's significant change going on in the marketplace right now. You know,
Yes.
a
Yep.
lot
For
more, a
sure.
lot of people are starting to watch their money more so than
Mm.
ever. Meanwhile, during COVID, they were throwing it at our profession. They're like, here, help me out, do this, do that. And now it's
Right.
just like, oh, show me how to do this because I want to do it myself instead of
Right.
having it done for you, you
Right.
know?
So do you find that following the wealth identity blueprint, is that something that makes your customers stickier and much more longer term, or does it end up being, hey, here's I don't want to say one and done because obviously it's not one conversation, but
Mhm.
does it become more of a short term exit ramp for the client?
I don't know what you mean by exit ramp.
I guess, does it help enhance your long-term relationship with your client, or does it end up being something that's more of a, hey, okay, I've got this now, I'm going to go on my own and go follow this blueprint?
Oh no, it creates a long-term
Yeah,
relationship
yeah.
because our wealth identity is constantly changing based on the needs of our lifestyle, whether we have children or our children's children's are getting married or the grandkids. I mean, there's so many influences that are always, changing the blueprint, and your level of interest are always constantly changing as well.
Hmm.
So it creates a very long-term relationship, and people are always, I find, very relieved to be able to have a very personal conversation about money that they can't have with their friends, their family, and at times even their spouses.
Hmm.
I was hired by a circuit court judge in another state because he found out he was sick and had a certain amount of time to live, and he realized that his wife was going to spend his last dollar before he probably dropped dead. So
Well,
he was like, you have to have a conversation with her because I can't have it. And
right.
I had to talk to her about spending. She had a $10,000 clothing allowance.
Oh,
Yeah. And I was just like, and for what?
right.
Because she was living out loud, not living for herself, and
Yeah.
had to bring all of that into her, into her line of sight so she could choose to make better decisions for herself. Because I was like, do you want to live for today? Or do you want to continue to also to be able to live for tomorrow? Because she had to change her spending the way that she was going at it. She was going to spend all of their money in 5 years.
Yeah. Not good.
No.
Not good at all. So is the one more question on this, and then we'll pivot over.
Sure.
So is it, do you find that that tool, the blueprint, is that something that you use with all of your clients, or is it something that is, it's a business add-on, or I'm not sure the right term for it, but
It's something that I've started in the past, I would say 5 years, to use with
okay.
clients. Before I used to, be gingerly about it because again, it's sort of like, wait a minute, why are you talking to me about this? And I
Mm,
had to learn how to have that conversation without being intrusive or, nosy or whatever you would think, or
yeah.
crossing the line. But now it's something that clients come to me for, especially if they're referred to me by someone else. They're just like, oh, I see that you changed, John's life. I want the same thing. And I find that it's more important to talk about the wealth identity blueprint with people who are, I call, just over broke business owners. They're
Hmm.
working really hard, but they don't know what they're working hard for, what they're working towards, and everything is just colliding and always falling into a million pieces. And
Yeah.
so I now use the WIB, the Wealth Identity Blueprint, to explain to them why this is happening and how to stop, the shattering of their efforts every single time, because it's exhausting. And as you already know, in today's society, everybody wants instant gratification more than they did a few
Yeah.
years back. So people are more open to it, but it also does take discipline and willingness to let go and really truly change, because you're changing the core and belief system of what you've held onto subconsciously for quite some time, and
Right.
really having to face that truth to be able to move forward. And
And we
it's
don't
not
really like
something.
change. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people don't like change. Change is hard. It's not easy, especially when you're talking about, subconscious change that your innate being. And you're just like, wait, now you're telling me that I have to take that record out of my head. It's difficult for some people. So it's
Right.
something that they have to work at. It's not an
Right.
overnight thing, hence the long-term relationship with individuals.
Right. Yeah. And having a coach there to guide you, right, is key.
Well, I'm an architect, not a
An
coach.
architect. Okay. All right. Having an architect there to help build the structure, right?
Right,
So
exactly.
yeah, well, perfect. All right.
Yeah.
So let's bounce over to the tools in your
Okay.
business, like
All right.
in your toolbox there. You mentioned Client Hub, but there's also a couple of the different AI tools, and how are you leveraging these to run your business and to make you more efficient?
I couldn't live without technology. I couldn't do what I do without technology. I love technology. Um, a lot of people spend their money on streaming services, and that's what they spend their evenings and weekends doing.
Mm-hmm.
Me, I'm looking at one application after the other and
Okay.
seeing how they chime together and what makes it good, what makes it not good, how it can be leveraged to, be somebody's bridge, because we all have different bridges that we need.
Yep.
And you mentioned Client Hub, which is great. It's a great software for a lot of people, but I've moved on from Client Hub onto something called Hubflow.
Okay.
um, and it's just like, I just love it. And sometimes, I shouldn't say sometimes, a lot of the times when you're doing your research, your R&D, it's like you'll see something and you'll just know that oh, this is it. This is it.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to work. And then when you implement the implementation of it, it comes with a sometimes a small amount of ease. Sometimes you have to work with the learning curve depending on the difficulty of the software. And everything just works together for good. And I do it also because I'll tell my clients, oh, I'm going to introduce you to this, and this year you're pivoting to this instead of that, and this is the reason why. Some of them want to do their own R&D, and I respect that, but they always come to the same conclusion that I did, why I
Mm-hmm.
introduced them to it.
Okay. So are you typically when you're checking out the apps and various options, is that are you looking more for your own practice, or is it more driven by what your client's needs are? How do you
Well,
divvy up that time?
I had a few needs for a minute. I would say in the last 2 years, I had a need to pivot my tech stack. So I was doing my due diligence to be able to do that. And I knew
Mhm.
what I was looking for and waiting for it to be created, or, but I'm always just looking for both me and my clients. Right now, I'm about to finalize my tech stack because I pivoted from what I was doing to, a few different platforms. I'm about to implement the last of it this weekend. But I'm, in the interim of looking at things, there's everyone's always having a pain point. Technology doesn't create a perfect bridge. There's
Mhm.
always some gaps in the bridge, and you're just like, ooh, how am I going to get over there? Because the bridge is still standing, but there's can I jump and make it, or do I have to lay something down, and am I willing to cross it that way? Because
Right.
the safety factor, and it's just finding out what's best, because there are a lot of softwares out there that are now competing, but they still have different offerings in the way of the functionality and ultimately how it syncs with the rest of the software that you're using. So it's almost like we're tech chemist, if you will,
Hmm.
which I find really fascinating.
Yeah. Or appologists,
Or
if you will.
appologist.
There we
Yes,
go,
that's
right?
right. The apologist, the award I won this
There
year.
we go. And
Yes.
bring it back around to that. So,
Yes.
so, so like how many hours then do you spend in a week looking at new tools like that?
Oh my gosh. Quite a bit. I would say sometimes at least 10 hours a
Okay.
week,
Wow.
you
Would
know.
that be deep dive into a single tool or looking kind of survey, high level survey to determine which one you're deep diving in?
Well, it's sort of like searching the web, right? Sometimes you just um, perusing around from here to there, and just looking for something of interest until you find that thing of interest, and then you start to do a deep dive into it and
Yeah.
get lost in it,
Yep.
and its functionality. Working with trying to beat, if they offer a 14-day trial or a 30-day trial, and trying to get it all in before. So it
Right.
it, it really depends.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's hard for me because I get, I don't want to say I get bored with it, but if it's not, technology is not my first thing I want to jump into. And
Okay.
I don't mind it and I appreciate what it can do,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't want to do the front end work to get it to where it's going to do what I need it to do. And so I don't spend a lot of time,
Oh, really?
again, deep diving in it.
But the
And
devil's in the details.
right, no doubt, no
Y-
doubt. And we're
And
we
and if
actually
you don't see the devil, then you can't really get to know the software.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. And we have HubSpot, and HubSpot is, it's a bear, and
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
so much to it, but it's super well, I don't know if it's even that complicated if you just take the time and follow the steps.
That's
Um,
right.
but even like the workflows, right? The workflows take time to build out
Y-
the workflows,
That's
and you
right.
have to really think through it, and then you build it out. And then let's say it's the workflow has 3 emails that get sent out over a period of time. Well, then you
Mm-hmm.
then you have to write the emails. I mean, so it's not it. And actually, that's the part that I probably uh, begrudge more than learning the software. It's like if you built the workflow, well, you still have to build what's going to happen. You still have to write it. So it has to make sense and has to be logical. But they're great tools, and
Yeah.
we actually just brought somebody in to help us with it because it is so complicated,
Yeah.
but is a powerful tool. So, how about with the AI tools? So you got, you mentioned in your short write-up, ChatGPT and Claude. Are you just using those two, or are you using any others?
Well, at
Um,
first I was using Claude, Perplexity, ChatGPT. I personally, and then I invest because I have a permanent subscription in this software that is very prone to making sure that your privacy stays private.
mm,
And so they came out with their own platform called Lumo. Um, but at the end of the day, I sort of trickled down to Chat GPT as my preference,
okay.
especially for business purposes. I did look at, the platforms within the accounting industry that they're like, oh, you should use our AI because it's private and we're SOC 2 and we're this and we're that. But I prefer to just pay for Chat GPT and use that. And now they have an educational tool that they're showing everybody, how to use if you're interested. And
Mm,
it's just phenomenal what Sam is doing. So I just work with the giant.
okay. Yeah. And so and how do you use it in your firm?
At first, I was first of all, I got permission from 2 clients. I always ask, who wants to be a guinea pig?
Yeah.
And sometimes I give them some money off for being a guinea pig. And at first, that's what I had to do. I had to pay them to be guinea pigs. Now they're just
Okay.
like me, me, me. I don't
Yeah.
have to do discounts anymore.
Yeah.
And so I usually pick like 2 different types of companies because I don't niche out in my business pipeline. I'm a generalist. And, you know, I'm just like, okay, I get like A and B sort of test from these two different clients, and I go all in. I have them sign waivers, and they know that I'm not, you know, looking to willfully, you know, cause harm. But I am mindful not to, you know, reveal their information. Sometimes I redact stuff before I give it data and things like that and see. And I've built out both of their AIs, and one of them, they're just having a great time with it because I built it out as I built out mine as well, you know, because first I'm my own guinea pig. Now I need
Yeah.
two other people to work with to see if I really have it right. And yeah, it works out really well.
And so when you say you built it out, what does that entail, or what does that look like, or what's the end result? Like, what did you build out?
Well, customizing it to be, you know, I hear a lot of people say, well, it doesn't write like me. It doesn't talk like me. I don't talk like this. I'm like, what? You didn't train it.
Mm,
And, you know, giving it a whole bunch of blog posts or the books that you've written to be able to know who you are, what you're all about, what your core goals are, and creating those minute, minute prompts to be able to understand your ecosystem within which you want it to be confined and work with, and
yeah.
bring in the unknown to make you and optimize what you're doing. And
Hmm.
you know, it's all in the prompts. And also, you know, once you have that and you feed it the data, um, you know, just focusing on daily use of what you're gonna teach it every day or ask it every day, so it learns more from you and gets better at answering the questions that are, you know, really almost, I would say, being a really great assistant. Um, and building out AI agents and stuff like that, which can be very time consuming.
Yeah.
So you have to be really clearly defined with what you want that AI agent to do. Otherwise, that can be a year-on task that you take on.
Right. And that's what we all want, is another year-long task to take
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
All right. So if somebody was going to dive into it, let's say, because I think there's probably a good portion of the population who's, yes, I know it's out there. Yes, I know I should be using it. I use it some. That's probably me. Um, but it's a super powerful tool. Again, the
Hmm.
AI engines here. Um, what would your recommendation be for kind of a recommended approach to building these out? Because, like you said, it takes time, and I think time is something that, if you start saying, "Hey, this is going to take a lot of time," it scares people off.
Yeah.
So how would you have somebody, or recommend that somebody approach building out, their AI engine, whichever one it may be?
With a task that you don't like to do, or that you don't, you know, you're wanting to learn more about or be better at. One of the things I always say to my client base is the tool is only as good as the user. So, you
Hmm.
know, because a lot of people come to me in the first, you know, 5 minutes, they'll say QuickBooks sucks. And I'm like, no, no, QuickBooks doesn't suck. The tool's
Yeah,
only as good as the user. So are you saying
right.
you suck? And they're like, what? No. They're
Wait,
like, let me
wait.
explain
Yeah,
myself,
yeah.
you
Don't
know?
hold up a mirror to me. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, it's like, okay, what is your ultimate goal? You have to know what the end is before the beginning. And I think people approach AI wrong by starting out with the beginning,
Mm,
right? Instead of the end. You got to know what it is that you're looking to achieve so you can work towards it, because the technology needs guidance.
right.
And you know what a lot of users do is they look for guidance from the AI, but the AI needs guidance. And with that guidance, it will be able to help you optimize what it is that your goal is. Otherwise, it's going to be like, oh, well, you have all of these options. What do you want to
Right.
do? And then people get overwhelmed and they're like, it's just too much. It's throwing too much at me. And it's like, well, that's because you really didn't direct it. You didn't ask the right, closed question. You asked an open-ended question. And you can't work with AI on an open-ended matter or equation, because it's just going to keep on saying, oh, and by the way, and oh, by the way, and it's running off on
Mm.
its own goal, because it's like, oh, I'm going to bring you over here because you have no direction. So I'm going to direct you. It's sort of like a dog walker, right?
Yeah.
You have to control where the dogs are going, when they're going to cross the street, sort of thing. You have to do the same thing with the AI for it to be able to be optimized for your ultimate goal.
Okay. So start with one of your least favorite tasks
Yeah.
and use that as your proving grounds, right? As your testing
Right.
grounds to really understand how to leverage the tech. And then go to number two, go to number three. And in there, all along, you're kind of training it to who you are, right?
Right. Right. Because it's understanding the parameters that you're, fencing it in on. And it
Hmm.
will attempt to introduce you to newness outside of that, but you can redirect it and say, no, I want to stay focused on this and flush this out. You just don't let it lead you. It's sort of like in my early days, when I would walk around my community and I'd walk into, all of these retail stores and people would be playing on their phones. And I'm like, hi. And they'd be like, hi, let me know if you need anything. And
Right.
they'd start
Yeah.
playing on their phones. And I'd walk over and I'm like, what are you playing? What are you doing? And they're like, oh, most of the time it was solitaire. And I said, what if I could show you how to let that device bring people in your store? What would you do? And then they're like, what? You have
Mm.
my attention because nobody's
Right.
been in here all day except you. And I'm
Right.
like, and you were going to ignore me and continue to play solitaire when the truth is that you're paying rent and you need to cover it. I'm just
Yep.
saying.
Right.
Um, so it's about structure and guidance.
Mm.
You gotta know the path and the street that you want to walk down. And if you guide the AI there, it will be like, oh, well, we think you should pick up this tool and you should pick up this tool, and let's use them to be able to get to your ultimate goal, instead of, oh, look at this tool over here and let's go this way instead, sort of
Mm.
thing. There's a difference between the two.
So do you have, and probably start heading towards the exit on this one, do you have, what are the kind of three things that you're leveraging it for the most right now? Or the
Um,
three that you can identify?
the three things I identify with it is that I leverage it to be able to align the client's goals with their ultimate goals.
Okay.
And I'll give you an example on that. Um, Someone had to start their books over for the third time because of the payroll, and it's very large payroll. And they have a lot of bounce checks, and the bookkeeper wasn't really managing it well. So it was said to them that they should start a new company and just pivot at this point because there was just too much financial dead bodies on the road.
Mm.
And I went and I put the profile into my, AI, and said, profile this client. Here's what's been happening and what they want to do and what's the highest recommendation for them and why. Give me the pros and the cons. And I said, and I want it in 2 pages or less. And it did exactly that, gave it to the client, and the client went to the CPA and the attorney, and they were able to have a more structured conversation about, should they stay or should they go?
Wow.
And so that was really helpful. And
Hmm.
I charged them $1,500 for that document.
Yeah.
And
It's
it took,
not, yeah, it's
yeah,
not the time, right? It's the knowledge and how to use the tools to get the information that you need.
that's right. And I sat in on the talk. It was a 2 hour talk, and it led them to where they need to be. So I use it in that way.
Okay.
Um, and when I see negative numbers and on the reports and all of that, sometimes I'll put 3 or 4 years in and say, what's happening? Why is this going wrong? You know, sometimes it will have to do a little deep dive into the GL, and you'd be surprised with the answers that it comes out with
Mm,
instead of my doing it manually. And I do love R&D. I love it,
right.
but at the end of the day, why should I go spend 3 hours or 5 hours and be like, oh my gosh, and just keep on following, those numbers, that number trail, when it can do it in less than, 30 seconds.
Right.
But
Right.
then when it gives me the answer, I don't just say, oh, thank you very much. I call my AI gentry. You know,
Okay.
I
Yeah.
I I go, and then I go and do my own evaluation and analysis to make sure that I'm in agreement. And if I'm not, then I'm able to have a conversation and point out specific things. And they'll be like, and Gentry will be like, oh, that's a good valid point, but here's what you were missing. And
Mm,
I'll be like, I'll ask it to tell me, and it will. And I'm like, oh, okay, you know. And sometimes it's just lazy and the conversation doesn't go well, and I shut it down and have to go spend the 5 hours.
mm.
And
Or,
yeah.
yeah, I was just going to ask you, have you seen over the past, 6 to 8, 12 months? I think I know the answer, but that it's getting smarter, better, faster, better responses.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
It's getting stronger, smarter, better, faster, and it's mind-boggling to me.
Yeah.
It's great to have a conversation with it, because I'm not looking for it to tell me answers. I'm participating in it, and he knows that, so he's not like, oh, I'm gonna just tell you something, and especially when it tells me a hallucination, and I'll be like,
Mm,
why are you hallucinating? I'm just like, are you having a bad day?
yeah.
Because I'm like, that's not true. But it can happen for numerous reasons. I just put it aside, and then I'll rely upon my own knowledge base, because you can't always rely on it. And I don't know why sometimes it's just, kung fu free that it's giving out
Right. Yeah.
sometimes. It's like,
Trust but
okay,
verify, right?
yeah,
Trust but verify.
you have
Yeah.
to consistently.
Okay. And then was there a third?
The third is
Yeah.
just asking it stupid
Okay.
questions,
Mm,
because I'm just too lazy, and I'm an Apple junkie, and their AI intelligence is like, not intelligent. So I'll be like,
okay.
Siri said this. What's your take? And it'll be like,
Yeah.
she's wrong, I'm right. Yeah. So the other part is just loose wing nothingness, really.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And so I think the key is, I had a conversation yesterday with somebody, and you got to get your hands dirty. Just like
Yeah.
with any software, any kind of solution, you just got to get your hands dirty. You've got to play with it. Otherwise, you're never going to get below the surface, right?
Yeah.
And never really tap into the power of the tool.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's
Whether
it's
that's, yeah, like you
it's
say,
so
whether it's,
true.
yeah, whether it's AI, whether it's HubSpot for us, whether it's QuickBooks, whatever it is, there's always another layer that you can get down to that can either make you more efficient or make you
Mhm.
more important to your customer, or open your eyes to something you weren't even aware of.
And you just have to understand what people are good at.
Yeah.
I one crucial question I always ask my client base is, what do you like to do every day? And if you had a choice, what would you do every day concerning your business? Because that allows me to understand what I can do for them,
Mm,
especially every day, especially as a business advisor. I'm the one
Right.
who can look out for these things and say, okay, I found this out. So here you go, A, B, C, X, Y, Z. And then they'll take it from there. I have someone who loves to read, but they don't like the R&D. So I'm always and this is another good one. I have Gentry always finding stuff for the topic that they love to read on. I'm like, find me something new for this client that they can deep dive into. And and Gentry's always giving me 2 or 3 things to hand over. And
Okay.
he
Oh,
and
that's
he loves
fantastic.
and he loves it. He's like, how do you find this stuff? I'm just like, oh, just in in
Yeah.
in my everyday.
Right. You're that important to me, Mr. Client. So, right.
Why not?
Yeah, sure.
It takes me just a few seconds and I'm not the one really doing it.
Right.
And I do ask AI to give me a summary of it, because sometimes I'll have a discussion with him on his topic of interest. And he just finds it fascinating. It keeps me engaged. It keeps
Mm-hmm.
him engaged, and it keeps the relationship strong. So when I have to, deliver the hard deliverables, it's just like, oh, okay. And it builds more trust at the end of the day is what it's
Yeah,
doing.
that's great. Well, awesome. Well, so if somebody wanted to learn more about the Wealth Identity Blueprint or wanted to connect with you directly, how would they do so?
Just through my businesspipeline.com website. There's a
Okay.
little blurb on it. AI is helping me. I did that website that's currently standing right now.
Okay.
That got done. I think finally finished it early March this year,
Okay.
and Gentry ripped it up to smithereens, and I'm about to do a new one.
You might need to get Gentry under control here. Gentry's out of control. So,
Yeah. But just to go to the website, fill out the contact form, or I'm Gen X, so I love talking on the phone.
right. Old
So
school, right?
old school, so they can actually pick up the phone and call me, and I won't be like, "Why are you calling me?" You know,
Exactly.
I'll answer. Those are some of
Right.
my best conversations with you know clients, and after they talk to me, they're like, "I wasn't expecting this conversation," and they're like,
Right.
"How do I make another appointment?"
Right.
Or 30 minutes in, I'd be like, the free consultation is up, so you have to make an appointment. And usually they're just like, send me a link, I'll pay right now.
Yeah.
And they do.
That's great.
Yeah.
Very good. All right. Any parting thoughts as we wrap up?
I would say that if you're not happy with your finances and what's going on financially with your business, it may not be, the infrastructure that you have, but that deep rooted paradigm that you're on a subconscious level that you don't know that's going on, and you should take a look at it. I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a psychiatrist, but in this industry that we technically are by default.
Right.
And you have to take a hard look at those questions and answers to be able to release your true wealth.
Fantastic. Well, there you go. You heard it here. Jacqueline, thank you so much for spending about 30, 45 minutes with me. I certainly appreciate it. And then, and actually hearing you talk about all the AI stuff, I'm going to reach back out to you about something that we're trying to do around that. So
Okay.
maybe we'll have a phone call, old
Okay.
school, pick up a phone. So, all right. But thank you so much.
Thank
It's
you.
great catching back up. All right. Talk
Thank you,
soon.
Gary. Bye.
Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Are you an accounting or tax professional who wants to stay ahead without spending a dime? Join thousands who trust insightful accountant and tax practice news to keep them informed and empowered. Get expert updates on QuickBooks, Xero, tax planning strategies, and workflow tips delivered straight to your inbox. Whether you're a solo bookkeeper, firm leader, or tax advisor, these newsletters are your shortcut to what's next in the profession. They're free, practical, and built for people like you. Visit insightfulaccountant.com and hit subscribe to start your smarter workflow today for free.